only a few points.
All right, I want to tell you real quick how I met Allison Hartson. She was a volunteer for Wolfpack, and I started getting calls from California saying, we've got this teacher from Orange County, and she is a machine. She's killing it. And eventually she rose up the ranks and became the leader for Wolfpack in the whole state of California. She organized over 1,000 volunteers and got HAR 1 passed. And HAR 1 is a resolution to call for a convention to get that amendment we need to fix money in politics. She's in. So, of course, we have the indictments that came out from Robert Mueller, 13 indictments to the Russians, one extra one for that involves an American. On meddling in the elections, now the National Security Advisor for President Trump, that's General McMaster, says that the evidence is incontrovertible. There's no question that the Russians meddled. And the list of people saying that goes on, and filled with Republicans. Chuck Grassley, who's been helping Donald Trump in 1,000 different ways in the Senate, saying it is absolutely clear that the Russians meddled in the elections, and Donald Trump, the next time he sees Putin, should tell him about it and tell him that we're going to take action. Yeah, I wouldn't hold your breath, Senator Grassley. So, but now that it has been proven that there is at least evidence of the Russian meddling, is Donald Trump going to accept that? Is Fox News going to accept that? Well, the answer is partly. This is going to be good. So, first of all, Donald Trump would like to do a deflection, and this is particularly grotesque. He says, very sad that the FBI missed all the many signals sent out by the Florida school shooter. This is not acceptable. They are spending too much time trying to prove Russia collusion with the Trump campaign. There is no collusion. Get back to the basics and make us all proud. That is super gross, to use the Florida shooting for your own personal benefit and to try to end an investigation that might or might not show that you worked in collusion with the Russians, but for you to now attack the FBI using the shooting as an excuse to try to cover up your own potential crimes, it doesn't get any grosser than that. So that is one way that they are trying to deflect blame. Now, the second one is the more amusing one, which is to blame Obama, of course. So Trump says, finally, little Adam Schiff, the leaking monster of no control, is now blaming the Obama administration for Russian meddling in the 2016 election. He's finally right about something. Obama was president, knew of the threat, and did nothing. Thank you, Adam. So, now that is partly true. I think that the Obama administration should have done a lot more. Joe Biden revealed why they didn't just a little while ago, about a month ago or so, when he said they were afraid of what conservatives and Steve Bannon were going to say. That is so, so sad. So, now that doesn't mean that Obama was the person responsible for the Russian meddling, or that they did it on behalf of Obama. Obama and his party certainly did not benefit from the Russian meddling. Trump did. That doesn't mean that he collaborated with them, but he's certainly the benefactor of that. Now, to turn around and blame Obama exclusively for it is ridiculous, to say the least. One more from Trump here. He says, now that Adam Schiff is starting to blame President Obama for Russian meddling in the election, he's probably doing so as yet another excuse that Democrats, led by their fearless leader, crooked Hillary Clinton, lost the 2016 election. But wasn't I a great candidate? It's such a pathetic, weird thing to ask on Twitter. You're already the president. Just let it go, man. Now, I know you can't let the Russian investigation go because they're likely to catch you. But in terms of the election, who won, who lost, you're in the White House. You won. Let it go. Let it go. Yes, she got more votes than you. Yes, they're making excuses. That part I agree with. But he can't let it go that she had got more popular votes and he's still trying to attack Hillary Clinton. And, of course, in a roundabout way to say when Hillary and Obama were in charge, some of these guys at the FBI were still here. Let's fire them all. Not because he's worried about Obama or Hillary, but because he's worried about what they're going to find out about him. Of course. So now we are going to go to videos where we show you Sean Hannity weighing. So here's Fox News. Have they also picked up this absurd idea that, in fact, the Russian meddling is Obama's fault? Let's find out.
This Putin-led operation back in 2009, nobody in the media is telling you, started over years before, a year and a half before, the CFIUS board. That's 9 Obama federal agencies, including Hillary as Secretary of State, Eric Holder at Justice, approved the sale of Uranium-1. And key players involved in that decision, they should have known all of this was going on, but they approved it anyway. And the real question is, knowing all of this, knowing Putin's efforts in 2009, and knowing we didn't have enough uranium in America, why would CFIUS and all these agencies and the Obama administration, why did they allow Russia, a hostile foreign entity, to take control of 20% of our uranium, the foundational material to make nuclear weapons? And we're supposed to be surprised that today's indictments, this that they told you about today, goes back to 2014. Where hell was the Obama administration? What did they do then to stop this? Now remember, NBC News reported after the election, the Obama administration didn't do more to stop Russia because they thought Hillary was going to win.
So the Uranium-1 story he's bringing back from 2009 has nothing to do with the indictments. Nothing at all. He's just throwing that in there because Donald Trump loves talking about it and trying to blame Hillary Clinton and Robert Mueller, who was the head of the FBI at that time, so he could fire Mueller. Okay. So 2014, that does have to do with the indictments, and the prosecutors are showing, the special counsel showing, that Russia had plans to meddle in our elections and begun to do so as early as 2014. So why didn't Obama do anything about it? Partly a very good question, as I explained earlier. I think he should have had the courage to not worry about what the Republicans, and ironically what Fox News would say about him. But there is a very literal reason why it got blocked. Not just their concern about the right-wing media, but they had a meeting of all the different congressional leaders, and they wanted bipartisanship for them to all come out in unison and say it is unacceptable for the Russians to meddle in our elections. The person who blocked it at the time was Mitch McConnell, the leader of the Republicans in the Senate. He said, no, I will not agree to this bipartisan statement. In other words, he thought it looks like they're helping my candidate, Donald Trump, so I don't mind the Russians meddling. Mitch McConnell made that decision before the election. He was told about it by the intelligence agencies. Now it is proven that is exactly what they were doing. And he basically said, not only do I not care, well, since they're helping my candidate, I'm kind of happy with it. So, no, I will not put out a statement and I will not support it. And that was a signal to Obama and Biden, you better not do this. Otherwise, we'll say you're meddling in the election and trying to throw a curveball. Now, if I was Obama, would I have gone forward anyway? Of course, I don't give a goddamn what Mitch McConnell says. But that's Obama. The whole 8 years, so scared. What is McConnell going to say? What is Steve Bannon? What is Fox News going to say? Look, it turns out, you know what they said? Afterwards, they used your own inaction against you. And they blame you for the meddling now because you didn't do it. You made the mistake of listening to them and not doing something about it. How's that for irony? Nah, God, if you're a progressive and Fox News is going to yell at you, you should be thinking, goddamn right they are. Every day they're not yelling at me, I'm not doing my job. So you got all these comfy senators sitting there. Oh, what's Fox News going to say about? They're going to say something about you either way, you morons. All right, anyway, here's one more from Hannity.
Given what we know now, President Obama, the top members of his administration, they owe you an explanation. Hillary owes you an explanation because what this did is a dereliction of duty. They failed to stop a major national security threat.
Well, how about Trump? He can do something right now. He's the president right now. Again, Sean, I don't know if you got the memo. Hillary didn't win. She's not the president. Obama's no longer president. Trump can do something right now. In fact, it's okay. It's super easy. They already did it. They passed sanctions against Russia for this meddling. Oh, but Trump has blocked the sanctions even though he signed the bill. He won't enforce them. Gee, I wonder why. Is it because he benefited from the Russian meddling and was super happy about it and is Putin's boy and Trump will criticize everyone on the planet with one notable exception. When it comes to Vladimir, he's on his hands and knees. Oh, Vlad, what do you need? What do you need? Criticize him, check him, protect our elections. No way. He's never done anything about it. Which brings me back to Donald Trump and another one of his tweets. He said, I never said Russia did not meddle in the election. I said it may be Russia or China or another country or group. It may be a 400-pound genius sitting in bed and playing with his computer. The Russian hoax was that Trump campaign colluded with Russia. It never did. Okay, is that true? Well, to be fair to Trump, he just says he didn't collude with the Russians. He didn't say that they didn't meddle. That's, of course, not remotely true. He totally said it over and over again. In one instance, he was asked whether he believes the Russians interfered in the election. Quote, I don't believe it. I don't believe they interfered. How's that for crystal clear? Liar. Okay. And then later, in the middle of last year, he put out this tweet. Get a load of this. Putin and I discussed forming an impenetrable cybersecurity unit so that election hacking and many other negative things will be guarded. After that tweet, all of the national security officials, including the Trump administration own handpicked guys, had to come out and go, no, we will not be working with the Russians on cybersecurity. They're the ones penetrating our cybersecurity. We're not going to give them the keys to our cybersecurity. Are you freaking nuts? He's not nuts. He's corrupt. He was going to give Putin an ability to... He was just going to hand him the keys to the kingdom, say, oh yeah, let's do cybersecurity together. And then now he has the temerity to claim, in his infinite set of lies, oh, I never said that there was no interference by the Russians in the election. All right, if you're still not convinced, here's Donald Trump himself.
I think it was very obvious to everybody. I believe that President Putin really feels, and he feels strongly, that he did not meddle in our election.
Yeah. Oh, Putin feels strongly about it. He strongly denies it. Well, you look at that. Well, then I guess it must be true, right? Now he turns around and says, oh, no, I never said they didn't interfere. When asked if they interfered, you said, I talked to Putin and Putin strongly denies it. Maybe we'll work on cybersecurity together. How much money do you owe the guy? What kind of tapes does he have on you? But you're not working for us. This is gross. And for these guys, for Trump and Hannity to now turn around and ironically blame Obama for not checking the Republicans enough as they apparently colluded with the Russians during the election and were happy to do it, now that is irony on top of irony. Okay. Now, but keep being scared of Fox News. See how that turns out. Okay, anyway, let's keep going. Now, news story out from the Associated Press, and it is troubling. It is about the shooter in Parkland, Florida, and how some of his training on how to shoot was funded by the NRA. Associated Press explains. The troubled teen, authorities say killed 70 people at a Florida high school, excelled in an air rifle marksmanship program supported by a grant from the National Rifle Association Foundation, part of a multi-million-dollar effort by the gun group to support youth shooting clubs and other programs. Why? Because, like the smoking companies, you got to get them early. Hey, pretend the cigarettes are candy, and get them to get used to smoking candy, and then they'll smoke cigarettes later. Turn your mascots into cute little cartoon characters, which, by the way, the NRA also does with Eddie the Eagle, and target the young. Unfortunately, quite literally these days. They gave a grant so he could learn how to shoot. Well, he learned how to shoot. 17 people are dead. Records show that the Stoneman Douglas JROTC program received $10,827 in non-cash assistance from the NRA's fundraising and charitable arm in 2016. When Cruz was on the squad, the school's program publicly thanked the NRA Foundation on its Twitter feed. So now I know what conservatives are going to say. Well, that's ROTC, man. That's okay. First of all, you can go ahead and go nuts if you want, but I'm not sure ROTC is okay. So in our high schools, we have training so that you can go get killed in the military. Now, if we were under attack and we need to protect Pearl Harbor, okay, maybe that's one set of circumstances. In these circumstances, when's the last time we had a defensive war? We keep bombing places like Yemen, Somalia, Syria, Iraq, none of which attacked us, and now you're going to send in young high school students to get ready to get excited to go over into the military and attack a new country. And now, by the way, all these programs are in public schools. Because private schools have rich kids. They're not going to war. Their daddies and mommies might start wars, but their kids don't go to wars. No, they recruit in places that are public schools and oftentimes poorer and middle class so that it is good fodder for their war machine. Okay, but on top of that, now we have the NRA Foundation in the business of charity. What kind of charity? Are they helping the people who got shot? Mm-mm. Are they giving out coats in the winter? Are they helping the poor and the needy? No! They're teaching the youth of America how to murder people. Oh, I'm sorry, shoot better. In case what? In case what? A 14-year-old has to defend himself what? Go to war? He can't. Defend himself against the tyranny of the government? You want 14-year-olds to... What are we training them for? We want the 14-year-old to shoot if someone comes in the house? Is he properly trained on who it might or might not be a danger? The NRA Foundation gave nearly $2.2 million to schools across 30 states in 2016, the most recent year for which its federal tax filings are publicly available. $400,000 of that was in cash, and the rest was in in-kind donations, targets, air rifles, and the list goes on and on. But whatever you do, little Johnny, make sure that you learn how to use a weapon so you can buy one later from the people who fund us, who are the gun manufacturers. Okay. The Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School JROTC marksmanship team made their Twitter account private after press reports tied Cruz to the program. Law and Crime reached out to the marksmanship team for comment on this decision in particular and the story in general, but no response was forthcoming at the time of the publication. So this other publication, Law and Crime, goes and asks them. They made that private. Well, that's embarrassing. Turns out we trained the killer on how to kill. Oops. Now, some people in the group still defended it. They're like, no, we went to a room and there was some Kevlar there. And then luckily the shooter didn't go in there, but he could have protected us. And we're proud of the program. It trained Nick Cruz how to shoot better. And he shot and killed 14 students and 3 adults. Okay. Along with schools, the NRA Foundation also gives millions of dollars a year to local gun clubs, Boy Scout chapters, churches, and agriculture programs. The NRA Foundation has provided more than $335 million in grants since 1990. They're not doing it for their health. They're not doing it out of charity, literally. They're doing it so they can train a whole generation of young Americans that the answer is violence and weaponry. Why? Because they sell violence and weaponry. It's not that complicated. In fact, the NRA Foundation website says, investing in the next generation of America's leaders. A significant majority of the NRA Foundation grants support youth shooting sports programs. Is that what we're calling it now, sport? I found an old video of the NRA training young kids on how to use weapons. Let's show you. Oh, I'm sorry, that was Al Qaeda. Young Turks. I have decided that I'm going to get ripped. Okay?
What?
Okay?
Like, physically?
Yeah. Okay. What, you don't believe me?
I 100% don't believe you.
I will get so ripped, here's my prediction, that someone at PYT will say, Cenk, you've got to stop working out.
We're tired of you winning.
So you don't believe me?
Cenk, you don't have time to, like, do your daily duties for the main show.
I don't even have time for your daily duties. Because what you guys don't know is how great my muscles already are.
It's absolutely possible. But you can't have Leah run to the food truck to get you, like, 2 different types of grilled cheeses with, like, tater tots for lunch. Like, you can't have that anymore.
Let's see what happens.
You also have to go to the gym regularly.
Let's see what happens. All I'm saying is, let's see what happens. Have I ever been wrong about a prediction? Almost done. Back on the Young Turks. Lots of stories today. Sorry, I'll do tweets in the next segment. Let's just go right over here and tell you about something slightly positive. Okay. So, tragic shooting in Parkland, Florida. 17 people dead. Now, people are reacting and fighting back. And the people that are leading the charge, in this case, kids. Students, including a demonstration out in front of the White House today. Let me show you some of the pictures. Exactly 17 D.C. students lie down in front of the White House today, obviously to protest their lack of any action in protecting the kids and doing any type of gun control, and they're asking the White House to take action, and I hope they do. And one of the reasons they said that they were doing it is because they said, look, there's been basically one school shooting every other day in the year 2018. We don't know. It literally could be us tomorrow. That's powerful. All right, now some of the students that were in the last shooting in Florida have spoken out and are continuing to speak out, also saying we must take action. Let's go to student Cameron Caskey first.
My message for the people in office is you're either with us or against us. We are losing our lives while the adults are playing around. And we have received endless support from your generation, and we thank everybody for that immensely because we really appreciate it. We don't need you. On March 24th, you are going to be seeing students in every single major city marching, and we have our lives on the line here. And at the end of the day, that is going to be what's bringing us to victory and to making some sort of right out of this tragedy.
So I'm going to tell you more about that march in a second and give you the information on how you can participate. But now let's go to Emma Gonzalez, another student from the high school.
So what do you say to the NRA? Disband? Dismantle?
And don't make another organization?
Yeah, don't make another organization under a different name. Don't you dare come back here.
Well, I know that, of course, I know for a fact, the next story we're going to do for you guys, the conservatives are now attacking the students. But I think that you might have a different point of view if you saw one of your best friends and your classmates getting shot in the head. I think that these kids are brave. I love that they're speaking out. They are unfortunately right that the adults don't appear to be doing anything. So here's more from Cameron Caskey.
Much more that needs to be done, and much more that people like Marco Rubio and Rick Scott are not doing. And it's scary to think that these are the people who are making our laws when our community just took 17 bullets to the heart. And it feels like the only people who don't care are the people making the laws.
Yeah. It's not that they don't care, to be fair. They just care more about the checks they get from the NRA. That's what corruption looks like. Last one from Emma Gonzalez.
Politicians who sit in their gilded House and Senate seats funded by the NRA telling us nothing could have ever been done to prevent this. We call BS. They say that tougher gun laws do not decrease gun violence. We call BS. They say that no laws could have been able to prevent the hundreds of senseless tragedies that have occurred. We call BS.
Well, I'm going to have some facts to back up what she's saying there in a minute. But first, I want to tell you about the different marches that are going on, how you can participate. The National School Walkout, planned by the Women's March organizers, will be on March 14th at 10 a.m. in each time zone. It calls for students, faculty, parents, and others to walk out of school for 17 minutes, 1 minute for each person who was killed in the Florida school shooting. Here's the website and the Facebook page for them. Obviously, these are complicated URLs. That's okay. We have it down below in the description box on YouTube and in the comment section on Facebook, so you can just click on them. Also, for the next one, this is the one that the students were talking about. The March for Our Lives is scheduled for March 24th. The details are thin right now, but students and activists plan to march on Washington, D.C. and other U.S. cities. I'm quoting Vox there. Here's their websites and Facebook URLs, also in the description box and comment section. Depending on where you're watching this. And Vox continues to explain that both the events will focus on calling Congress to act on gun violence, which is very logical. But, I mean, it should be the least controversial thing on the planet. After this massacre and the one before that and the one... we've had 4 massacres in the last 5 months. I I'm not talking about mass shootings. That's almost every day. Massacres, dozens of people shot. You got Sutherland Springs, Texas, where they lost 26 people in a church, 58 people in Vegas. Obviously, Parkland just happened. But it's a controversial position in Washington. The Republicans are like, do something about gun violence? Oh, no way! No way! The NRA pays my bills. I'm not going to touch that if my life depended on it, and it might. Steve Scalise was shot. Comes out. He's like, are the checks still clearing? Yeah? Okay, great. I'm still with the NRA. Okay. The day, now here's a third March. The day set for actions is April 20th, which will be the 19th anniversary of the massacre at Columbine High School. Alternate reporting on that 3rd March. The Twitter account for the National School Walkout, which will start on Friday, declares, we are the students, we are the victims, we are change. Their Facebook link is right here. And again, these are easy clicks in the description box. And oftentimes also in the eye, if you scroll over the video, there's an eye that pops up there that will also have the links for you guys whenever we talk about links on YouTube. Okay. Now, let me give you some of the stats that shows that Emma Gonzalez is right about gun violence in America. The U.S. makes up less than 5% of the world's population, but holds 31% of global mass shooters. That is not an accident, and the rest of the data bear that out. The U.S. has nearly 6 times the gun homicide rate of Canada, more than 7 times that of Sweden, and nearly 16 times that of Germany, according to the United Nations data compiled by The Guardian. Gun deaths are a big reason that America has a much higher overall homicide rate than other developed nations. Turns out we are number one. We're number one in killing ourselves with guns. That is literal. It is a fact. And by the way, this is not, hey, the U.S. has 16 times as many gun homicides than Germany, but we're a bigger country. No, it's per capita. Per capita. We kill ourselves with guns at a rate 16 times higher than Germany. You know why? There's not a lot of guns in Germany. And there's a ton of guns in America. They get in a fight in Germany, they do. You know why? Because they're humans. And they yell at each other. And maybe they slap or punch each other, and that's terrible. Here in America, we get in a fight, grab a gun, shoot someone, and kill them. That's why our homicide rate is way higher, and we have the mass shootings to boot. Here, let me show you another graph on mass shootings. This is a chart that shows you number of guns in the country, and then number of mass shootings. Hey, look at that. Turns out the more guns you have, America's almost off the chart there in the upper right corner, the more mass shooters you have. And the rest of the world is in the lower left corner. They don't have very many guns, and they don't have very many mass shooters. Oh, all of these studies have to be one-offs. Wrong. Let's go to a collection of studies. In 2016 review of 130 studies in 10 countries, published in the epidemic. Oh God help me. I'm just going to do that over. Not today, devil, not today. A 2016 review of 130 studies in 10 countries found that new legal restrictions on owning and purchasing guns tended to be followed by a drop in gun violence, a strong indicator that restricting access to guns can save lives. So you have to repeat these super obvious things because it just will not get through to Republican legislators. Now, federal background checks, don't get me wrong, it gets through the Americans, not just the Democrats, but the Republicans. About 93% of Americans are in favor of universal background checks, but the politicians won't do it. So here's another study. If you say, well, okay, maybe they're just in favor of that one small piece of gun control. Based on Pew surveys, there are way more adults in the U.S. who believe that gun laws should be stricter overall. That's 52%. Than those who believe gun laws should be less strict. That's 18%. That's a tiny minority. But they are so loud. And the money of the NRA is so loud that 18% of the country teaming up with tens of millions of dollars from weapons manufacturers is drowning out the voice of the rest of us. And finally, one more piece of context from German Lopez at Vox. This has happened dozens of times over the years, talking about the shootings and then the protests. The December 2012 shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut, in which a gunman killed 20 children, 6 adults, and himself, similarly led to calls for action. Since then, there have been more than 1,600 mass shootings, killing more than 1,800 people and wounding more than 6,400. Many of these events led to speeches and events, but Congress refused to budge every time. Will it be different this time? I hope so, and I hope that all the students and their parents and everyone else goes out to these marches and then says, you know what? I'm not going to vote for another Republican or Democrat if they're taking NRA money and selling our kids out and letting them get killed in one mass shooting after another because they'd like another donation from the NRA. We're tired of it. In fact, another story I have in the news for you today is one of the top Republican donors down in Florida said, no mas. I'm not giving the Republicans any more money until they do something about assault weapons. Enough is enough. How many kids have to die? That is a fair question. We should keep asking it until we have the answer from our politicians. And all right, I'm going to leave it right there. I can go on and on. Okay, so now let's go to... Oh, here it is. All right. Sorry, guys. Give me one more sec. Going on the next story. The good guy Republican, believe it or not, does exist. At least he's a good guy on this issue, not on other issues. I'm going to get to him next. But first, let me show you the Fox reaction to the students. Okay. So after the Parkland shooting in Florida, a lot of the students down there are going to demonstrations. They're speaking out on television. They explain on TV how they saw their friends get butchered and massacred right in front of their faces. And so they understand that adults aren't going to do anything. Our political system is sick. So they're speaking out. Here's some of the stuff they're saying. Delaney Tarr says, because of these gun laws, people that I know, people that I love, have died, and I will never be able to see them again. That's a student at the high school where the shooting happened. The crowd chanted at one of these protests, vote them out, vote them out. There was a sign that said, hashtag never again. Well, unfortunately, we're on a countdown to it happening again, because it always does in this country, because we have no gun control. But that is the point of these rallies. And another sign said, hashtag do something now. They are right about the fierce urgency of now, because we're all on a countdown to the next school shooting. It's a near guarantee at this point. If your kids are in a school somewhere, are you sure that's not the next school to get shot up? There's no way to be sure. The only thing we can be sure about is until we do something about gun control, I guarantee you, I said near certainty, but unfortunately it's not. It's an absolute certainty. I guarantee you there'll be another school shooting. The only question is where and if it involves your kids. Another sign said simply, don't let my friends die. Okay, so Fox News reported on this, and then they sent out a tweet about their article. Nothing wrong with that. So, glad they did. Some of the comments from the followers of Fox News on Twitter. Alright, well, let's just show you. Deplorable Dan with hashtag MAGA writes in, they all need to shut up. Now remember that after a shooting, a lot of times people like myself will say we need gun control. Why? Because I'm tired of seeing kids get shot. And I know for a fact that more guns leads to more school shootings, more mass shootings, and more gun homicides. That is true all across the world. 130 studies have proven it out. Okay, what do the right-wingers online say? Oh, man, you have no respect for the victims. You know, you speaking out while this emergency is still an emergency, while we haven't forgotten about it, while we haven't done our delay tactics and never taken any action on it. It is outrageous. What about the victims? As if they care about the victims. Now they're telling them, why don't you just shut up already? Well, it turns out you don't like their message. You don't like that they didn't like to see their friends murdered right in front of them. And now you're telling them to shut up. If it was just one, okay. And look, I grant you it's social media. But there is an ugliness out there. Brandon writes in, I wonder how much this kid's being paid. Yeah, of course. Because you'd have to be paid to be bothered to see some of your best friends murdered right in front of you. Some of the kids literally saw the bullets going into their friends and killing them. Wow, they're being paid. So now here's another obnoxious meme from the right wing. Have they no decency? No, none whatsoever. Let me see this now. They took a old movie picture and put it up. Oh, you just did the Tide Pod Challenge. Please tell us all your ideas for gun control. In other words, kids are so stupid. Ha ha. You kids, what would you know about gun control? Well, they know a lot about it. I'm not sure anybody in the country knows more how damaging it is more than they do. They saw it with their own eyes. Now here's another tweet. Kids using the mainstream media to try to demolish the Second Amendment and have a police state like communist governments. No, that'll never happen. So you think asking your friends, asking the government to do something about your friends being murdered in front of your eyes is the equivalent of becoming communist? Yeah, I'm sure those kids, they're all about the communist agenda. For everything for the right-wingers is all about like some extreme ideology. It's all projections. Since they're extremists, they think, oh, no, that kid is not disturbed by his best friend being murdered and seeing 17 dead bodies in the hallways of his school. No, it's that the kid's a communist. Okay, great. I got two more. How could it get worse? All right, well, let's go to Chris Thomas. Wonder if they had rallies planned weeks before this tragedy. Oh, I see. Of course, it's a conspiracy. Oh, I'm so sick of their grotesque conspiracy theories. It's never their fault. They can never take personal responsibility. You're against gun control. We have out-of-control guns in the country. 130 studies have showed that those guns lead to higher mass shootings, higher school shootings, higher gun homicides over and over and over again. It is absolutely incontrovertible evidence. So what do you say? Oh, no, man, yeah, I bet somebody else did it and they had it all planned out. Yeah. You people are monsters. So, and here's the last one from Andover, 1982. Change must start within them. Unless they change within, nothing will be accomplished. Okay, all right, wait, not so bad, but I'm a little worried. And then the final sentence. It wasn't the gun, but one of them. Oh, great. Blame the students who got shot. There is no bottom to the right-wing barrel. There's no one they won't insult. There's no one they won't attack. And there's nothing they won't do to protect their ideology. Truth be damned. Human decency be damned. Okay. Now let's go to the one Republican donor that actually is doing the right thing. I'm trying to be fair. Give credit where credit is due. Okay? So the Republican Party has been taking tens of millions of dollars from the NRA. Donald Trump alone took $30 million. Marco Rubio down in Florida, who promises that there'll be no gun control, has taken $3.3 million from the NRA, and the list goes on. But finally, one Republican donor has had it, and he's actually leading a bit of a countercharge among Republican donors on this issue. So, look, I'm sure that I don't agree with him on almost any other issue, but I commend his strong and brave stance on this one. New York Times explains, a prominent Republican political donor demanded on Saturday that the party pass legislation to restrict access to guns and vowed not to contribute to any candidates or electioneering groups that did not support a ban on the sale of military-style firearms to civilians. Well, bless his heart on that one. L. Hoffman Jr., a Florida-based real estate developer who was a leading fundraiser for George W. Bush's campaigns, said he would seek to marshal support among other Republican political donors for a renewed assault weapons ban. Now, this is not a minor donor. He has given millions and millions of dollars to different Republicans running for office throughout the years. He himself says, quote, for how many years now have we been doing this, having these experiences of terrorism, mass killings, and how many years has it been that nothing's been done? It's the end of the road for me. Now, look, I'm going to get a little cynical here, but I think that the tens of millions of dollars that corporations have, and it is oftentimes gun manufacturers, hence corporations, that funnel the money to the NRA, and then the NRA funnels it to the politicians. That kind of crony capitalism, unfortunately, will overpower even millionaire and billionaire donors on the Republican side, because corporations will always have more money than individuals. So I hope Hoffman can gather up more people to join this cause, and maybe it'll make a difference, because that's the only thing Republican politicians listen to is Republican donors. But they'll probably be outspent by the NRA. But I don't want to discourage it. I think it's wonderful. Let me give you more context. Republican elected officials in Washington and Florida have shown no significant interest in considering new gun restrictions after the Florida school shooting. The party, which has full control of both the state and federal government, has traditionally opposed virtually all new limitations on firearms. And that is absolutely true. But Hoffman is not deterred. He says, if we go from Florida to Las Vegas and now Parkland, you just have to know that there are others around the country just dreaming about staging another mass murder. That is absolutely true. And tick-tock, tick-tock, until we have another one. It's coming. It's around the corner. Don't get surprised when it happens. And there'll be another mass shooting, unfortunately, very soon. All right. Now it has spread to other donors as well. Peter S. Rummel, a Jacksonville-based donor who gave $125,000 to Jeb Bush's super PAC in 2016, said he was on board with Mr. Hoffman's plan and would only contribute to candidates supportive of banning assault weapons. He said the Parkland shooting was a turning point. Look, it's sad that Sandy Hook was not a turning point. It's sad that Orlando was not a turning point. Las Vegas was not a turning point. And then when Gabby Giffords, congresswoman, was shot in the head, that was not a turning point. Steve Scalise was shot, a Republican congressman, that was not a turning point. But at least for some Republican donors, we have now hit a turning point. And thank God for that. Hoffman says, I will not write another check unless they all support a ban on assault weapons. Enough is enough. And he says, furthermore, I'm going to email every single donor I know in the Republican Party and try to get them on board. We really got to start a little movement here. I will take help wherever it comes from, and I don't care how much I disagree with Al Hoffman Jr. on other issues. We'll fight on those issues, and we'll fight in the battle of politics and ideas and ideology. In this case, he is taking a bold and correct stance. And hey, Republicans, if these people don't represent you, and you're tired of the mass shootings and the massacres as well, and you're worried that the massacre might be coming to your town next, it probably will, then you should join people like Al Hoffman Jr. and others, and make sure that the Republican politicians who are blocking any action on this issue are gone and don't represent you. Elect other Republicans that are not bought by the NRA. Go to Democrats. Do whatever you need to do. But don't give another dollar or another vote to any politician, and by the way, that includes some Democratic politicians, to any politicians taking money, blood money from the NRA to make sure that they do not do any gun control or take any action on all of these massacres that we're all suffering. Not one more dollar, not one more vote. All right, we're going to take a break here. And when we come back, I'll tell you the story of how the Democrats did a focus group. They tried to find out what voters thought of the Democratic Party. Uh-oh. Race for impact. Hey, what's up? Aaron, what do you like better? The rabies or the rabies? Go. We are actually the longest running daily stream on the planet. Later tonight, we start a revolution. Yes, another one.
I ask leave of the Senate to continue my remarks.
Too strong.
You're not answering the question.
Answer the question. No one is above the law, and that includes the President of the United States of America.
Go, engage, fire.
Congrats to the Young Turks. They actually won a Streamy Award tonight.
We'd like to thank Donald Trump, obviously.
We just crossed 7.6 billion views.
Revolution won't be televised. Hello, Internet.
I am the least anti-Semitic person that you've ever seen. I think there's blame on both sides.
Oh, these politicians, terrible. Worse.
They had these beautiful soft towels.
It's just so wrong. They took your wealth and redistributed it to them.
The government's robbing you, and they're distracting you with fucking nonsense.
Fake news, the enemy of the people. Nobody knew that healthcare could be so complicated.
I can't speak as dumb as he understands. The market will be destroyed by this plan, and 45 million people will be left without insurance.
They will be met with fire and fury. We just launched 59 missiles.
MSNBC shows the bombs taking off, and Al Jazeera shows you when they land.
The profiling and the Muslim bans have begun.
Today, my father and brother await deportation.
Horrific act of violence in Charlottesville. I want you to see what hate looks like in America.
What a sick country we live in.
It's time to get up and fight back.
Giant protests against Donald Trump. Women's marches take over more than 500 cities across the United States.
Immigrants throughout the United States who protest. I don't think they're peasants. I actually think that they enrich this country with their culture.
I don't want a resistance. I want a revolution.
History is not on your side. Your fundamental principle is flawed.
This is outrageous. It's unethical. It's bad government. And frankly, it's corruption.
We work together as a community and we stand up for each other.
The total solar eclipse. Oh my God.
Climate change is my number one issue, and to be able to help amplify message and research of these workers is like a dream come true.
Paul Kaepernick chose to sit during the national anthem to protest police violence against African Americans. This has sparked a new movement.
More and more women are sharing their stories of sexual assault.
It's happening right in front of our eyes as the culture is shifting.
We have to speak up ourselves, and we have to create movements ourselves.
You see it unfolding in real time as women stand up together collectively and go no more.
So many women came out of that women's march and said, I'm running for office.
You want to talk about the revolution? Here it is. It's going to be awesome.
TYT.
TYT. Young Turks. You have the power to change people. You do. I hope one day we can all learn to live together in a decent way and not let all types of media and the corrupt established system tear us apart. Turks. Teely Q writes in, the election has begun, release the hounds. Yes, as I explained at the top of the show, voting starts on February 20th in Texas for primaries that are held on March 6th, but the early voting begins February 20th. And then in Arizona, first election up for Congress, primary on February 27th, so they are right around the corner. Jess says, finally, the Young Turks and Cenk Uygur is on, saving me from losing my sanity after being forced to watch mainstream media news over the weekend. Thank you, TYT. Thank you, Jess. Thank you for making the show possible. TYTnetwork.com/join to become a member and get the show anytime you like. Gonzo Tokyo says about Emma Gonzalez's speech, Emma's speech was the most powerful I have seen in years. You can see the pain, fear, and rage in her voice. And finally, Sam says, I remember when I was a Republican, I fell right into the mental health argument. I closed my eyes tight on the real issues. Thank you for having an open mind, Sam, and changing, by the way, just like I did. As long as you got an open mind, I think anything is possible as long as you're open to those facts. Okay, let's go over here. So Senate Democrats wound up doing a focus group, not amongst themselves, obviously, of voters, to see what they thought of the Republicans and the Democrats. And they're going to need this information to figure out what to run on in the 2018 elections. Well, first of all, wouldn't it be nice if they didn't have to ask a focus group? If they actually cared about policies and they were true progressives and they knew what to fight on and they were desperate to get change in the country and they wanted to make sure that everybody had health care and college and a decent wage. Okay, I get it, they're politicians. But what happened in the focus group is really interesting. The voters had this quote for them. And again, the focus group doesn't know that the senators are going to look at it. They're just being asked in a room and they tell them what their real opinions. Quote, Republicans have the wrong agenda. Democrats have no agenda. Damn. As usual, they're exactly right. The voters are right and the politicians are wrong. They get it. They're like, look, man, we can see the Republicans with our own eyes. Wrong agenda. Got it. What's your agenda? I don't know it. You know why? The corporate Democrats almost never fight for their agenda. They don't even know what it is. That's why they're asking a focus group. So let's see what they took away from it. So, Axios reporting, a Senate aide told me leadership is acutely aware of this problem and hopes immigration will fill their agenda gap. Okay, is fighting for immigration reform the correct policy? Yes. Have the Democrats even done that? No. They had every opportunity during the budget negotiations to fight for DACA, and they chose not to. But that's not why I'm frustrated. Well, I'm also frustrated about that. But the main reason here is they're like, I don't know what to believe, and I'm looking at a focus group, and I'm like, oh, maybe immigration, maybe that'll fill the gap. One issue, just one issue. You have opinions on anything else? And by the way, why immigration? Why to fill the giant gap of their no agenda? Because, as usual, the Democratic Party is playing identity politics. Latinos, come here, come here. We'll eventually do immigration reform, and we didn't do it now. We didn't use our leverage, because that would have upset the markets and hence our donors, and we care a lot more about them than we do about you. But come here, Latinos. Yeah, immigration. I care about immigration. That's going to fill my empty gap of a mind as a Democratic politician. Another top Senate aide, however, told me their messaging will highlight a broader set of issues, including pensions, opioid funding, child care, and student loans. They will boast that they moved the ball forward on these issues with the budget deal. First of all of those are anodyne. Oh, you're for helping people with opioid addiction. Are you also for breathing oxygen? Wow, congratulations! A bold, bold move. I'm not saying be against those things, but those are all layups. And what do you mean student loans? You want to wipe out student loans? No, not practical, not practical. With that kind of money, we could finance another war in the Middle East. Not practical. So what do you mean help with student loans? I know. Help around the edges. That's pocket change Democrats. So their list is not remotely progressive. It is as small a progressive agenda as you could possibly have. The second part that's frustrating about that quote is, we'll brag about what we did with the budget deal. No! That's why we told you not to support the budget deal. That was a Republican budget that you just passed. Don't brag about that. You should be doing a campaign for all the things that you would pass if you were in charge, not the crumbs that the Republicans gave you off of their table. But you don't want to do that kind of campaign because you don't actually want to pass anything if you're in charge. We saw what happened when you had a supermajority. You pushed that boulder all the way up a hill and finally got Mitt Romney's healthcare plan passed. And if you don't know, look it up. The Obama healthcare plan was copying Mitt Romney's plan in Massachusetts. It was copying Heritage Foundation, a right-wing think tank's plan. If you say, hey, it's better than what we had, I agree with you. But those are the crumbs off of the Republican table. Can Democrats have a vision for something that would be better if they won? I know progressives can. I know uncorrupted Democrats running as Justice Democrats and others backed by Our Revolution and other actual progressive groups. Yes, they can. They're running because they're desperate for change. They've quit their jobs. Some of them take no salary at all because they fight for change. But for the corporate Democrats, the overwhelming majority of the establishment Democrats in Washington, oh, what's our plan? I don't know. What did our donors say? Can we just keep it going on neutral? Gee, I can't tell why we're losing. Because one side has an agenda. It's a terrible agenda. The other side has nothing. Okay. Last one quote from Axios here covering this story, John the Swan, is several Top Hill Democrats told me they worry too many of their colleagues think they can flip the House just by bashing Trump and talking about Russia. Well, it's good to see that there are a couple of sane Democrats left in the country, but they are apparently overwhelmed by the other Democrats in the House and the Senate. That is a terrible idea, to just run against Trump and talk about Russia. Look, you want to run against Trump in some portions of your campaign? Of course I hear you. I understand that. And overall, there's a lot of sense in that. But if that's the only thing you have to offer, well, that's what Hillary Clinton did. She ran against Trump. Okay, now look, she can say she had all the white papers in the world. But what did she emphasize in the media? What message did she try to deliver when she was on the campaign trail and in the debates? It was mainly, and in her political ads, it was bashing Trump, bashing Trump, bashing Trump. But people thought, but what's your agenda? It looks like you're for the status quo. And that is the number one problem that the Democratic Party has. Because in reality, a lot of them are for the status quo. Talking about Russia during the elections, you want to encourage the special counsel to continue his investigation? Wonderful. There's not only nothing wrong with that, I think it's exactly what should happen in a democracy. You want to talk about that on the campaign trail? How's that going to equal higher wages for the average American? Is that going to pay for their kids' college education to get equality of opportunity? Is that going to give them health care when they get sick and their mom needs treatment? Talk about their lives, have a real agenda, but as long as they're hooked on that corporate money, they're never, ever going to do it. So vote all those bums out in the primaries that are coming. Put in as many progressives as you can, because they'll at least fight for you, and you'll know they'll fight for you. And if they don't take corporate PAC money, like the Just Democratic candidates don't, and now more and more begin to not take corporate PAC money, we're winning on that issue, then at least you know they're uncorrupted. And that makes all the difference, because this is the corrupted, and they're useless. Okay. I promise you this story. I got to give you this story. Okay. And then there's some stories I didn't get to here, but I'm going to do a whole hour of Rebel headquarters tonight. And in that, I've got some. I've also got a devastating story about what happened in the state of Washington for Wolfpack and how the Democrats, as usual, went with inaction. Of course. Okay. All right. Interesting reports coming out now. Sarah Burris at Raw Story writing about this, and also some groups looking into what happened to Al Franken. Let me tell you all about them, including Unhack the Vote. Okay. So as you all know, Al Franken was a senator from Minnesota. There were allegations of groping and sexual harassment against Senator Franken, and almost all of his Democratic colleagues pressured him to step down, and he did. He maintained in his last speech that he did not do it, but he didn't want to cause a distraction. Number one reason why Democrats step aside instead of fighting. Okay. So Sarah Burris reporting a group of fake news sites, turns out, white nationalists and far-right fake Twitter accounts were reportedly behind the campaign against Senator Al Franken, and the Democrats fell for it. Now, there was a tweet from an account connected to Roger Stone on Twitter that had said the day before the story came out about Al Franken, Roger Stone says it's Al Franken's time in the barrel. Franken next in the long list of Democrats accused of grabby behavior. So I mentioned this when Al Franken gave that speech as he was resigning. If Roger Stone knew about it the day before it came out, there's an excellent chance that that was a Republican plot, and an alt-right one at that. should have been a lot more careful. According to a report from Unhack the Vote, while everyone was focused on the Russian meddling of the 2016 election, another campaign was being run out of Japan. That's very interesting, and that is the first time I'm hearing about that, so let's find out more about that. A group of Japan-based sites were created the day before Tweeden came forward with her allegations, and several Twitter bots ensured the stories about it went viral. Tweeden was the first person to accuse Franken. The news was then picked up and fueled by Mike Cernovich and his fans, who issued thousands of tweets causing, quote, Franken fondles and, quote, Franken is a groper to gain traction. So this is a common practice that the alt-right has. It's not matched by anything on the left. The left is just sitting there going, oh, what happened? Oh, the right wing's attacking a fellow progressive or Democrat? Let's help them. Oh, my God, I'm outraged. Okay? So whereas the right wing is coordinated, organized, and attacks in unison. Okay. Sarah Burris points out, meanwhile, 8 former female staffers of Franken's defended their old boss, but their voices were completely drowned out. Well, that's how the right wing weaponizes the Me Too movement and uses it against the people who actually care about it, progressives and Democrats. And then they get other Democrats to throw that Democrat under the bus, and then they go, ha ha, as if they cared about Me Too. I've shown you Cernovich's past before in different videos that I covered about him. He says that date rape doesn't exist, and allegations in regards to him and sexual assault are significant. He brags about how he hired private detectives to go after the victim in that case. He brags about how he makes up charges against people online and gets it to stick. And here they go again, and there goes the Democrats again, falling for the trap. So now, as Cernovich and the alt-right is doing this, and the Japan-based sites are throwing out their tweets, that day, RealUSA.site was created by a Japanese developer named Asufumi Atsuka. A fake news site was grown, and a second site popped up a few days later. Now, Donald Trump loves to call the mainstream media fake news, but the word or the phrase fake news came from someone. It came from right-wingers and bots, sometimes from other countries, mainly Russia, but others, Macedonia, but almost all right-wing, creating literal fake news websites where they would print news that wasn't true, wasn't remotely true, it was meant to be propaganda and to trick people. That was a right-wing phenomenon. They then took the word, hijacked that too, weaponized it, and used it against the people trying to give you reality and the real news. These are some of the worst people on earth. And for Democrats to follow and what they're doing and take it legitimately, or for the rest of the press to do it, is grotesque. More from Burris at Raw Story. The Alliance for Securing Democracy explained that Russian intelligence operations then ensured Al Franken was trending by November 17th using a group of 600 fake accounts. Great. The alt-right working with some folks in Japan and other bots from Russia to destroy one of our senators. It's not just about the 2016 election. This stuff continues to this day. And there is some so-called Americans in our midst who are happy to work with foreign governments to try to take out their political opponents. There used to be a word for this. All right. And then, of course, this guy doesn't want to get left out. So right-wing troll Charles Johnson tweeted, thinking of offering money to people who go on TV and say Al Franken is a predator just days later. Because why not bribe people while you're at it? That's another right-wing MO that they do over and over again. So finally, one more piece of context. Just days prior to Democrats calling for Franken to step down, the fake news sites republished their own version of an article from a smaller site urging women and activists to stop their defenses from Franken. And the title of that piece was, Dear Al Franken, I'll miss you, but you can't matter anymore. thousands of fake Twitter accounts that ensured the article's headline spread. So they take a fake news article pretending to care about the Me Too movement. A lot of the people who are running these fake news sites actually think the Me Too movement is garbage. They don't care about it at all. They laugh at it behind the scenes. But they write an article pretending to care. Oh my God, I care so much about sexual harassment. Meanwhile, they've done sexual assault on their own. They've advocated for sexual assault, saying it's no big deal. Okay, and then they turn around and go, oh my God, Al Franken. What he's done in this regard, it breaks me up. Then they use their fake Twitter accounts to spread that garbage and that smear job all throughout the country. And then finally, the mainstream media picks it up and goes, oh my God, if Roger Stone and Cernovich and these monsters and lunatics are saying it, and it's backed up by all these tweets, then it must be true. And they run with it, and the Democrats crumble. It is a pathetic circle. It happens time and time again. And most of the Democrats are totally unaware of it, as usual, clueless to the end. And a lot of the mainstream media aid and abet the same people that yell at them and smear them day after day. You guys ever want to catch on to this game? You have any idea what's going on? Wakey, wakey. But it's never going to work. They're just going to go along like suckers and fall into this right-wing trap pretty much every time. Young Turks.
Oh, did you guys help us win a Shorty Award last year?
Did you?
In the category of Audience on... overall YouTube presence.
Best overall YouTube presence.
We want to win it again this year.
That's right.
We want to win, and we can't do it without your help.
We need you.
We need you.
All right, so here's how we're going to do it, guys. Look, we want to win for Best Overall YouTube Presence for the Young Turks, but we also want to win Best in Overall Facebook Presence and Best Web Series for The Breakdown, which is great. But let me tell you about YouTube Presence. Go to tytnetwork.com/YouTube Presence, which is very logical. Click on the vote in Best Overall YouTube Presence, also very logical. You can log in using your Facebook or Twitter accounts to create a Shorty account to submit your vote. You share your vote on social media, ba-bang, that counts as an extra vote. You're voting like crazy now. Now, do this for the Breakdown and Web Series and in a Facebook presence as well. And you're seeing the links to vote on your screen. And don't worry, we'll have them in the description box below. So easy peasy. You just go right there, just click, boom, you're there. And get a load of this. You can vote once per day all the way to February 22nd.
Every day. Every day.
Go nuts. Have fun. You know, we always tell you to get out and vote. This gives you an opportunity to do it over and over again. Sorry. You know, by the end, we might just get tired of winning.
No, and this is great practice for the midterm elections. You know, get that voting muscle in order.
That's right. Here we go. Ready?
Yeah.
Practice.
I just shot a clip. It's time sensitive and it needs to be edited.
Did anybody call for it? Editor.
Need this in an hour.
Shared editor too.
Fuck you.
back in the Young Turks. We got a lot of stories for you guys in this hour, so I'm just going to read one tweet. N Venture says, kind of sad to think now that rich people care, something might change. Politicians only listen to the donors. It's true. That was the story about the Republican donor saying, well, I'm not going to give you millions of dollars anymore unless you're for some small amount of gun control.
Yeah.
So at least that money talks. And member shout-outs today are Daniel Hill and Jeanette Newman. Today, no post-game, because we're doing a double show of Rebel Headquarters. Don't miss that. And members, you get all the Rebel Headquarters whenever you want. You can listen to it, watch it, download it, or stream it. Of course, the same applies to the Young Turks. And that is at tytnetwork.com/join. And tonight on Rebel Headquarters, someone who went in Democratic politics and came out a rabbi. Okay. Democrat, a guy walks into the DNC, walks out a rabbi. All right, so we'll explain in the show. All right, what's next, Anna?
We start off with a little bit of entertainment news with a political twist. A little twist, so let's get to it. The Disney Marvel movie Black Panther broke all sorts of records at the box office during its opening weekend, and unfortunately, the movie has become politicized in some negative ways. But first, let's start off with the positive. According to reports, the movie overperformed massively by grossing $201.7 million over the 3-day weekend, the biggest domestic debut for any film that's not a character team-up movie or part of a sequel trilogy. So that's nice. That's fun. Also, the film was powered in part by the second largest Thursday preview night ever at 25.2 million, as well as the second biggest Sunday in film history, 60.1 million, notching just behind The Force Awakens, which came in at $60.6 million. So Black Panther also represents the biggest domestic debut by a black director. So this is where things, unfortunately, needlessly become political and politicized. So the filmmaker behind this film was Ryan Coogler. He is a black filmmaker. And also, when you look at the cast, you'll notice that, first of all, the co-writers were all black, and there were no white Americans in featured roles. They were in supporting roles. So nearly half of the film's North American audience, by the way, was female. More than 60% was older than 25, just to give you a sense of the demographic that went in to see the film. It did well, made a lot of money so far. It's expected to make even more money. But some people decided to take this positive story and turn it into negative one. We'll get to that in just a second.
Yeah. So before we get to the madness on this, already there's some degree of madness. Right wing, why would you be opposed to this? I mean, aren't you betraying yourself by being opposed to... And by the way, let's be fair. It's not all right wingers, not all Republicans, but obviously some that are enraged with us. If there's a million movies that are mainly all white casts, what's the big deal about having a movie that's mainly black cast? So what?
Yeah.
Right? I don't know why that's an issue. Like, I don't have a dog in any of these fights. I'm not really white. I'm not black. I'm somewhere in between. And I feel like, okay, some movies are white, but, it'd be nice to have a diverse set on some of these so that other people can feel represented. But most of the movies are all white, but this is mainly a white country. And that movie happens to be mainly black. Great. I just don't understand what the big deal is. But it makes black people look heroic. Maybe that's a potential issue.
So I want to be as fair as possible when covering this story. As far as I've seen, and I might be wrong because I don't have eyes everywhere at all times, as far as I've seen, there haven't been politicians or members of the GOP or public figures who identify as right-wing who have come out and said negative things about this film. However, there have been a number of trolls online who have been spreading propaganda about the black community in regard to this film. So you may have seen some photos pop up on social media, particularly Twitter, which is probably one of the worst places on the internet, where people claimed that they were assaulted by black audience members as they went to go see the film. Now, all of these accounts have been debunked because the images that they used have been traced back to other images that have absolutely nothing to do with this film. Let's take a look at a few of the examples. Again, these are all fake. These have all been debunked. The first one shows an image of a bloody towel or napkin. The person tweeted, Was at the Black Panther premiere, but a group of black youth said this movie wasn't for me. I am white. They then proceeded to assault me. I'm heading to the ER now. That tweet was retweeted about 400 times before it was debunked and taken down by Twitter. So some people are buying into this propaganda. Again, you can't really trace it back to any political group, right? It could just be trolls looking to get a rise out of other people. But the fact that their mind goes there should say something.
No, I'm going to go further than you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to connect to a group. It's right-wingers. There are progressive racists out there who are like, let me start racist memes. So that is not a phenomenon that exists at any kind of scale in America. Are there right-wing racists online who love to start racist memes? Yes. Dime a dozen. And look, I know that a lot of the trolls think that they're funny, and they're like, look, I guess I'm a right-winger, but me, racist? No, I'm just having fun. But you are telling people, and a lot of people don't know you're kidding, and that's your great amusement. Like, ha-ha, I'm kidding, but they don't know it. It's kind of a weird, backwards thing in comedy, right? Mm-hmm. Like, comedians are usually successful when other people realize they're funny and then laugh. They get a rise out of, no one realizes that we're liars. Isn't that funny? But in reality, if they don't realize you're lying, they might actually think that black people attacked a white person. Mm-hmm. Now, that's an anecdote. It happens to be a fake one. But it could scare people. And if you spread it around and around and around, you do it over and over again, you have purposely spread this malicious smear against blacks in America that they randomly attack white people. Mm-hmm. And that's not funny. That's racist. That's the definition of racism. Black people are bad and violent and attack white people for no reason. By the way, I lied. I made it up because it's not true. But I'm saying it because I'm an effing racist.
And also,
just own it.
I know, but here's the thing. I don't believe anything on Twitter anymore, including.
But Anna, you're savvy about it. Do you have any idea how many people believe everything they see on Twitter?
I know, but listen to what I'm saying. Not that I. Of course, I'm not going to believe this kind of like propaganda, racist propaganda, but more importantly, it's hard for me to believe that it's actual people behind these tweets. And what I mean by that is it could be bots. It could be a small group of people that like to, lead to some divide in the country by using whatever technology they have to maximize the number of these types of tweets. That's what I mean.
Yeah, so, I understand. And it could be that initially it was a couple racists here, and then the Russians thought, oh, this is wonderful.
Right.
Ooh, we love racism. It divides America perfectly, right? But either way, it's the 3 R's. Right-wingers, racists, and Russians. There are no progressives sending terrible racist memes about black people in America.
So that was just one example. There are several other examples, all of which, again, have been debunked. They've been taken off of social media. Another example showed a Swedish woman who had been assaulted before, way before this movie came out. But the person who sent this tweet out said, I went to see Black Panther with my girlfriend, and a black teenager shouted, "You at the wrong theater," and smashed a bottle on her face. Yeah, that's, again, a Swedish girl who was assaulted in a completely different incident years ago. Another example, a man laying in a hospital bed with black eyes. The person said they threw me out of the theater and said it wasn't my movie. I don't have insurance and can't see. That was 23-year-old Michael Voller, who was hit in the face in London in May of 2017 in an attack that was reportedly precipitated by anger over the results of a soccer game. And it goes on, and I'm going to skip a couple of them and just go straight to Graphic 83. One person also used Rob Porter's wife's image to make it seem as though she was attacked while seeing this movie.
And they're pretending, of course, that she was a different person. But that is particularly ironic. The right wing using the ex-wife of a right-winger who had committed domestic abuse against her in the allegations that have been laid out recently about Rob Porter. So a Republican beats up his wife, then they use a picture to say black people did it at a Black Panther movie screening. Well, look, couple last things here. One, if it's the Russians or whoever it is, some people in Macedonia, whatever it might be, right? All I know is it is almost consistently done to the benefit of the right wingers. And so they just keep pounding at this issue of race, and then they'll turn around and go, "You guys are race obsessed. We're not the ones spreading fake news about how black people attack white people randomly. You're the monsters that are doing that." And if you're, and then, by the way, the good news is it was wildly unsuccessful, as Anna pointed out. Huge opening weekend. So that's a happy note. The country is not anywhere near as racist as these guys make them out to be, and as right-wing as these guys make them out to be. They make it seem like, oh, Trump won, so the whole country's racist and right-wing. They won't say racist, but they'll say, is against unlimited immigration and banning Muslims and black crime and all that stuff, right? But it turns out, no, a lot of people went to see the movie, and finally, what happened? I thought right-wingers were in favor of the free market. Free market has spoken. They love the movie. So this is you trying to fight back in pathetic ways, and at least there's other things like our show to call you out. That's probably what drives them crazy about our show.
Yeah. Let's move on to some economic issues in the U.S. that have enraged me.
Oh, before we do that, do we have the JR pictures?
We do have the JR pictures.
Can I just show you this because it's just fun, real quick? So JR Jackson is our producer. You guys see him on camera all the time. He has black superheroes tattooed on his arms. So he had the Black Panther before the Black Panther was cool. There it is. And he's also got Luke Cage on his arms as well. These are all before the shows came out, the movies came out, and he had done this.
Upon realizing that he was into Black Panther prior to this movie even coming out, he decided to buy a loft in Brooklyn. He is now also drinking organic, trade-free coffee, or free trade coffee, whatever.
Because he's a hipster who was on the trends before the trends even existed. But anyway, I love to say "told you." It's not really a "told you," but apparently JR ahead of the times. Mm-hmm. So, movie producers, look at the rest of the tattoos. You'll have your next movie.
All right, moving on. Price gouging in the pharmaceutical industry is not necessarily new news. However, there was a story that kind of went under the radar that I wanted to bring to your attention. Back in December, the Wall Street Journal reported about price gouging in regard to a specific cancer drug that's used for a variety of individuals who have different types of cancer, like brain tumors, lung cancer, Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's been around for about 40 years, but over recent years, the price has gone up considerably. To give you an example, it was previously sold for around $50 a capsule. The same dose now costs a whopping $768.
Jesus Christ, man.
So back in 2013, the pharmaceutical company that created this drug and sold this drug had actually sold it to a new startup called NextSource Biotechnology, Biotechnology. Now, after NextSource purchased it, that's when the price gouging really started. NextSource has increased the price 9 times in less than 5 years. Prices of other doses of the drug, which the company has renamed as Gleostein, has also been increased considerably. Okay, so again, the drug gets sold to a new pharmaceutical company, a startup, and they're like, you know what? Even though the patent on this drug has expired, no one has created the generic version, so we can go ahead and charge whatever we want. Over $760 for one dose of this drug.
So this is what crony capitalism looks like. Why? So drug companies do get patents that last for a certain amount of time. It used to be 5 years. Now, over time, they've increased that. Sometimes now it's 7 years, and for some drugs, it's even all the way up to 12 years. And that is the government saying you are not allowed to compete with these people. Now, sometimes those patents last so long that it's not economically viable to create a generic drug. Now, that's oversimplifying it. And I'm not positive as to why there wasn't a generic drug in this particular case. Okay, but the other way that you have crony capitalism affecting the drug companies is in other developed countries, they have single payer. So what does the government do? It negotiates on your behalf. So if you say, all right, I know that I make a really good profit at $50, but I'd like to charge you $750 instead. The government goes, no, I'm not going to waste the taxpayer money paying you $750. I'm going to negotiate. Okay? In our system, this is unreal. If you don't live inside America, it's got to be confounding to you. The government is not allowed to negotiate drug prices, even though they have enormous leverage because they buy so many drugs for Medicare and Medicaid. They literally wrote it into the law that the government must take whatever price the drug companies give. How is that possible? How could you, I mean, if it was a business and you told the business, you must pay whatever the person is charging you down the supply line, you'd be like, that's outrageous. No, I should be able to negotiate.
Right.
No, but they took that power away. Why? The drug companies are the number one donors to politicians. And since they give so much money to the politicians let them rob us blind. One last thing that's super relevant to this is, if you have single payer, everybody's covered. They don't let the sick die. That's kind of the point of insurance. But in our insane system here in America, we let people die. We let them die in the streets.
That's right.
So there are tens of millions of people who are uninsured. Now there will be more uninsured because the latest tax plan cut even more from health care. The Republicans now are saying they're going to cut even more from Medicaid and Medicare to make up for their tax cuts for the rich. And then on top, these guys go, well, you got cancer. You got to take this drug, otherwise you're going to die. So I can charge you whatever you like, and your government is not here to protect you. Nobody's looking out for the citizens. This is a government by the corporations, for the corporations, of the corporations.
Right. And now some might say, okay, well, even if you have the government negotiating, if there is no generic version, if there are no other competitors, then wouldn't this company still be able to charge whatever it pleases? Well, that could be the case, but remember, if the government is involved and the government sees this form of price gouging, there might be regulatory retaliation. There might be some oversight. They might look at what the actual costs are. Why is it that they're charging so much per capsule? And that could change things, right? So, by the way, the chief executive of NextSource was asked about why the price has gone up so much. And here's what he had to say. He said that the price is based on development costs. Remember, this drug was already developed. It's been around for 40 years, okay? Development costs, regulatory fees, and the benefit the drug provides to patients. Okay, let's stop for a second.
Yeah.
Wait. So right there, he is confessing this drug will literally save cancer patients' lives. And so I know I can charge whatever I want for it, and they have no choice but to buy it if they want to live.
And remember, the question was about why does it cost so much? It's not that it costs that much to produce it. He's saying it costs that much because you'll die without it. Ha ha! You might as well have added that to the end of the quote. And Anna's right about the development costs. Look, development costs are a real thing, and that's why these drugs get patents, and they have patents in a lot of parts of the world. So we understand that concept. Whether the patent has to be 12 years in some cases is a completely different issue. And in this case, you developed and made up your costs decades ago. So I understand it as a concept. For this particular drug, you can't say, oh, I still haven't made up my development costs. Golly gee, I haven't even made a profit yet. That is preposterous. You know that's not true. You were making a profit when it was $50, let alone when it's $750.
I mean, it's amazing because Republicans will, talk about death panels when it comes to providing health insurance for Americans, as if it's, not some sort of privilege, but more of a right. But death panels already exist. The death panels are actually run by the CEOs of these pharmaceutical companies who get to decide how much they charge you for these drugs. They get to, price them at exorbitant amounts. And if you don't have the money to pay for it, well, too bad, you get to die. That's what you get in the United States of America. The richest country, the most productive country, that's what you get. It's pathetic. And it's amazing that there are this story, by the way, again, I want to reiterate this. It was published in December, and no one talked about it. The only reason why I found out about it was because it was republished by a different news organization, and it came across my desk. And I'm like, how do people not know about this? Why aren't people outraged about this?
Well, did it come in the form of a tweet? Because if it didn't, cable news can't be bothered with it. It has to do with real issues. And by the way, it's putting the kidding aside about cable news. Who are the top advertisers on cable news? All right, pharmaceutical companies. Are you having trouble getting an erection because you're 89 years old and you watch cable news? Well, don't worry. Here's a drug company who's going to give millions of dollars in advertising. They're not going to touch those guys. The politicians get paid by them. The mainstream media gets paid by them. And lo and behold, look at that. The politicians don't do anything, and the media doesn't cover it. Final thing for you guys. I want you to understand. This is not capitalism. This is crony capitalism. So I am not in favor of setting prices. So we can get into debates about that, but I think price controls are a bad idea, and I think they pervert the market. And it winds up hurting the middle class and the poor as well. Okay, but put that debate aside. I want you to understand something. This is not price setting. It is normal in a free market to set limits so that there is not price gouging. So I'll give you an easy example. A natural disaster happens. They run out of water and food. Now, somebody could go in and go, now water is no longer $1 per bottle, it's $100 per bottle, or it's $1,000 per bottle, and if you don't have it, you're going to die, and your kids are going to die. Well, the government steps in and says you're not allowed to take advantage of a situation like that. That is not price setting, that's price gouging, and we will not allow it because we are here to protect our citizens. This is supposed to be a democracy where our representatives represent us and look out for us. Unfortunately, we've lost that in this country because we've allowed unlimited legalized bribery. And so our politicians are bought, and they're going to let them do this to us over and over again. Countless people will die because they can't afford it. It's sickness on a grand macro scale.
We got to take a break. Let's do that. When we come back, if you are getting screwed over by your employer and you're not getting paid, you probably have no way of recouping that money. I'll tell you why when we come back.
Well, hold on, one more thing before we go to the break. The story that I gave you from Sarah Burris on Raw's story about Al Franken, I just wanted to be clarified. Raw's story has taken that down. So we'll see how it plays out. Give you an update when I can. But it was reported from them. Now they have taken it down for whatever reason. I'm just keeping you on the loop and giving you an update as soon as I have it. All right, we'll be right back.
Easy for me. I started off in Brooklyn. My father gave me a small loan of $1 million. All my life, I was told no.
You said I had small hands. They're not small, Lux. I never heard that one before.
They'd rather lose to Republicans than have a progressive win with them. That's how dumb the corporate Democrats are.
It's the Democrats who love to sleep, and at the end of the day, they're the ones who push the right-wing agenda.
This is why you lost to Trump, you fucking moron. What the fuck is wrong with you? Whoever wrote that, I'm sure they...
All right, I want to tell you a little bit more about aspiration.com, and it actually relates to the story we're just doing. So one of the things they care about is fairness. So they explain that the current financial system is biased against many people with low interest rates and high fees. Anybody who has gone to a bank knows that, of course. And they're saying they're making it fair by letting you pay only what you feel is right. This is why I call them overly liberal, too generous, but they are. They let you set your fee. You could even set it at $0, and their interest rate is the highest in the market. So check out aspiration.com. It's a much better place to put your money than any of the current banks. And they say they're for everyone, not just a few. Wealthy people have historically gotten access to the best rates. They're like, well, we could have you get access to those rates as well, and you can rest easy knowing that Their investment funds are 100% fossil fuel, firearm, and private prison free, and they do not invest in oil. Feel better about your money and make more money. Aspiration.com. Alright, back on the Outer Turks, Jank and Anna with you. Ash says, I just saw Black Panther earlier today. I loved it, and I'm glad it's crushing box office records. You're watching the show live, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern. corporations fund the Republican Party. The Republican Party is dominant in those southern states. They're like, you didn't give me, you working at minimum wage. Did you send your lobbyists to me to give me gifts? Did you give me campaign donations? Did you give me dark money? No, your employer did. So, of course I represent them and not you. I'm going to let them rob you blind. Look, on a national scale, the Republicans invented a scandal about the IRS. Now, at the end of the day, when they did the investigation, they found out the IRS actually investigated liberal groups slightly more than conservative groups. But by that time, they'd gotten all this press attention, and no one even remembers that the final conclusion was that they were actually targeting liberals more than conservatives. If you mention the so-called IRS scandal now, everybody will be like, oh yeah, the IRS targeting conservatives. So why did they do that? Why did the Republicans invent that fake scandal? Because their donors are the ones that don't pay their taxes the most. So they don't want them investigated. So they want to neuter the IRS. They want to make sure they have as little money as possible so that their donors can cheat on their taxes. In this case, they're allowing the corporations to cheat in not paying you. Well, if you have a system based on private financing of elections, of course they're going to work for private interests. What did you expect?
So look, that's definitely part of the story, but it's actually a lot worse than that. Because some of these companies are not massive corporations with big names that we all know of. In fact, those corporations, the ones that typically are the big donors for the Republican Party, have a lot more to lose if they are screwing over their employees, right? That's when the federal government might get involved, and they typically are not the corporations who do this type of shady dealing with their employees. It's usually the small bean companies that, get away with it because they can easily rebrand themselves, dissolve their company or corporation and then create a new one under a different name, and then it becomes impossible to enforce, whatever ruling has been made in these wage cases.
But, Anna, it's also a mindset, right? So it's impossible to enforce if you don't want to enforce.
No, that's where I was getting to, Jake. That's where I was getting to. My point is, it's even worse than what you thought, because the Republican lawmakers in these states don't care. They don't care. They don't care about your minimum wage. They don't care that you've been screwed over by your employers. They don't want to use the resources necessary to hire the investigators and do the investigations to get you the money that you earned. It's worse. It's worse than, the corporations paying off the politicians. It's basically politicians saying, no, I'm not going to use taxpayer money to help actual taxpayers get their money back.
Because, look, what we're saying winds up at the same result, which is they've been trained over all these years to only care about the donors. So they've forgotten that they're supposed to represent you.
Yes.
They're literally called your...
No, I know you're not joking. I don't know, I'm not joking
listen to me. You have two choices. You have to work here. You only do two things.
Yeah,
Eat
and I'm doing them
and
both.
studying.
And I'm doing them both. Just because you don't see me doing it doesn't mean I'm not doing it. No, you're saying that. No. You're saying that because you don't think I'm studying.
Class, and the class tells you in the first two that you need to study a lot. I read the book. I'm not stupid, John.
Yeah. And all the other
you have three classes. They school call me.
And they all said it was more important to study better, not harder.
You study
so
better.
There we go.
You studying better?
Yes.
If you were studying better, that man said that you have 85, you will have 100%.
No, if I was studying your way, I would have failed.
You told me you cannot travel this way because you have homework and things to study.
Yeah, I do.
Classes. I didn't go nowhere and stuck here and sick. You haven't gone once downstairs because my friend came just to bring me something. I'm sick. I've been throwing up with vomiting, diarrhea, fevers, and you have not over.
Well, a lot of my studying that I have to do is in the internet.
Okay, fine. I told you, you can use the internet in your class that you have. That's not your class. That's a radio for some program show.
Fine. Maybe it is something.
Well, I know. I can hear that they're talking about something else.
Fine. Whatever. Doesn't matter to you.
Kansas, the ceiling is $10,000. In Iowa, $5,000. Why? Why would you put a ceiling there? So if someone got screwed over by their employer to the tune of $25,000, you're just not going to investigate that case by policy?
You got screwed over worse, so we're going to make sure we definitely don't help you.
Okay, Georgia, Louisiana, Alabama, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Mississippi all have labor agencies, but workers can't file minimum wage or overtime claims with them, meaning that they will not investigate issues involving wage theft.
Because they represent the robbers. You know what regulators are in this case? They're the cops. They're making sure that they literally, the other guys, don't steal from you. It's stealing from you just as much as it's picking your pocket. If they don't pay you $1,000 that you earned in minimum wage or overtime, it's like they came to your house and took $1,000 out of your drawer. But there are no cops to help you because the Republicans fired all the cops because they represent the robbers. And I say Republicans because these are all Republican-run states. If you think they're for the average guy, you ought to have your head examined.
Finally, if you go to state lawmakers and they don't help you out with this, of course you can go to the federal government and hopefully they can help out. Now that is a long and difficult process. There's no guarantee that the federal government will even look into your case. But if they do look into your case, and best case scenario, if they rule in your favor, they can only recoup what the federal minimum wage is. So if you are in a state where the minimum wage is higher than the federal minimum wage of $7.25, you're still going to lose a ton of money because they can only get you back $7.25 per hour that you work.
And that is if you had a federal government who gave a damn about it.
That's right. And right now you don't. So it's scary times that we're living in. But I just want to be clear about what's really happening in the country. It is the working poor that continuously get screwed over. And when our taxpayer money should be used to take care of our own, it's used for all sorts of other purposes to pad the pockets of the wealthiest in the U.S. The weapons manufacturers, these massive corporations, those are the people that our politicians care about the most. They don't care about you. They don't care how hard you work. They don't care about how many kids you have to feed. They don't care about any of that. All they care about is taking care of their donors and making sure that their pals keep making money off your back.
Wolf-pack.com. All right, what's next?
All right, let's do a fun story to wrap up the show. It's All-Star Weekend. It's happening in LA. That means basketball players, the best basketball players, they're getting together, they're playing basketball games. And
that is what it means. I love that description. That was the most needless description in Young Turks history.
All right.
Okay.
So to kick off this event, Fergie sang the Star Spangled Banner, and she did what singers usually do. She overdid it. And a lot of people were not happy about it. She added her own little jazz twist to it. We wanted to show you the original video, but we couldn't due to copyright reasons. So we recreated it for you so you could take a look, and then we'll talk about some of the reactions. Yeah, oh, say, does that Star Spangled Banner yet wave? For the land of the free
Song.
and the home of the Let's play some basketball.
Okay. Whenever we do those recreations, first of all, they're for the win. Second of all, you have to understand, we literally recreated word for word.
Yeah.
And expression by expression in this case.
Yeah.
So if you missed it, that's what happened, but with presumably slightly better singing.
So the men that you saw in that video represented basketball players and genuine expressions that they had during Fergie's performance.
I was trying to figure out which one was Draymond Green. I think it was Ali. I'm not Ali, I'm here.
Damn, all those versions, they just look the same, don't they?
Claude. I have a tweet from Erin Ryan that I love. She writes, it's been hours since Fergie sang the national anthem at the NBA All-Star game, and the president has still refused to acknowledge and respond as the leader we need as a nation in this time of strife.
That is pretty funny. Odd Outlaw had my favorite tweet. Fergie didn't sing the national anthem that America needed. She sang the anthem that America deserved. So good.
So, look, that's the thing. We get it. It's not like she screwed it up. She was trying to be artistic. And
no, but don't try to be artistic. Just sing it. Just sing it, and let's be done with it. By the way, Fergie is not, the first offender to do this. Like the Star Spangled Banner, just sing it the way that it's supposed to be sung. We know you're talented. Don't overdo it. Let's move on with our lives.
Yeah, this is not time for a jam band. Okay, check out the last episode of Old School. You know what I'm talking about. TYTnetwork.com/join to become a member and get wonderful shows like Old School. But anyway, Fergie, bring it down. Let's sing the song and play basketball. Okay. All right, guys, we're out of time. Special 1-hour episode of Rebel Headquarters next. Bye-bye. primaries are coming. I'm going to tell you all about that in a second. I want to read one random comments from the leftover from the Young Turks show, which we just concluded. On YouTube Super Chat, OnionMan77 said, for the recreations, love those. So thank you. We appreciate that. They put some hard work into recreating those moments for you guys, and I happen to agree with you that it works out fantastic. I've got a couple of great guests for you guys. We've got one of them coming up in a second, and then I have a number of stories that are both inspiring and infuriating. But before any of that, the announcements. All right, well, here's the major announcement. We're in election season. It starts tomorrow. So the voting starts tomorrow. I know it sounds really early. We're in February, and the voting's for 2008. Yes, the general election is in the beginning of November. But Texas primary opened for early voting on Tuesday, February 20th. That is literally tomorrow, as I said. And it goes all the way through Friday, March 2nd. But the last day to apply for ballot by mail is the 23rd, February 23rd. And it's got to be received, not postmarked by then, so be careful with that. Texas primary election overall is Tuesday, March 6th. That is right around the corner. By the way, if you don't know how to register or get a write-in ballot or any of that, go to tytnetwork.com/register. It redirects you to a government site that has all of the different states, okay? And you click on your home state, and they'll give you all the instructions that you need. Now, on the 20th, Texas starts voting, but their actual election day is on March 6th. If you want to go in person and vote at the booth, but Arizona has an election that's even earlier than that. U.S. Congressional District number 8 has an election next Tuesday on 27th. So that's a primary, February 27th, and Justice Democrat Brianna Westbrook, who's been on the program, is running there against two other Democrats. So again, if you want to know how to vote in Arizona, go to tytnetwork.com/register, and we'll have that link down below too if you're watching this later, whether it's the description box on YouTube or comment section on Facebook. And if you believe in the uncorrupted progressive Democrats like Brianna Westbrook, make sure you go out there and vote for her. Okay, now let me move forward to our next guest. Joining me now is Peter Jacob. He is running in the 7th District in New Jersey. That is unfortunately represented by Republican Leonard Lance, trying to make sure that is not the case going forward. Of course, he's got a primary before that, but Peter, welcome to Rebel Headquarters.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
No problem. So, first of all, let's talk about your policy positions. We'll get to Leonard Lance in a second. How does the audience know you're the most progressive guy in the race?
We stand for the issues that reflects the needs and the values of Americans. We know that your income determines how you live. It shouldn't determine if you live. And that is why we need a $15 minimum wage. We know that healthcare is a human right. And we can't just stop there by just saying that. That's just a platitude. What we need is a Medicare for all single-payer system. In order to see any of that, or address climate change, or to address the fact that the gun manufacturers have bought out our Congress, we need to get to the crux of it all, and that is the role of money in politics. We need to not only overturn Citizens United, but we need to stop political bribery, period.
All right, that seems clear. So let's talk about money in politics for a second. I see here that you work with Represent Us and Move to Amend. Those are solid groups looking to get money out of politics, so that's really wonderful to see. What's your proposed solution for getting money out?
Yeah. So, yes, we need a constitutional amendment, but that's going to take time. What we could do in the immediate present at this moment is pass what Represent Us has put forward, and that is the American Anti-Corruption Act. That essentially stops political bribery, holds lobbyists accountable. We need to make sure we end secret money. There's all these shadow organizations, dark money groups like Americans for Prosperity, quote unquote, that the Koch brothers have funneled money through to politicians. We need to make that transparent. And ultimately, we need to restore the voters' choice. And what we do is basically end gerrymandering, have open primaries, have automatic voter registration. These are basic, simple things that we can do. And the fact of the matter is, we already have 5 municipalities who passed the American Anti-Corruption Act as a resolution right here in the state of New Jersey. Several counties and municipalities, even South Dakota, passed it as a bill that the Koch brothers have fought to repeal. But it is possible. It is something that we need to do, and I promise to continue that fight and be the first one, if nobody else beats me to it, to propose it on the House floor when we get elected.
Okay, now a lot of times Democrats have given up on in this district. It's the 8th wealthiest district in America. But you ran last time and got 43.1% of the vote, which is very impressive. My guess is you did not have a lot of corporate PACs backing you in that run. And that, I don't know how much money you raised, but I can't imagine that it was a ton of money. But that's an impressive vote count. One, how did you do it? And two, does that mean the Democratic Party is backing you in this case?
You're absolutely right. Your guess is correct. No, we did not have any Democratic Party establishment support whatsoever. What I saw about 2 years ago around this time, when I had barely some scrapes from family and friends put together some money, raise some money to them, and I had no name recognition whatsoever. But I saw the need. I saw what was happening. I saw the stakes were high and the time was limited to sit by and settle for anything less than brave, bold, and progressive policies. We raised $320,000. We spent about $2 per vote. The most cost-effective campaign with the highest return on our investment. And we ended up with the strongest campaign to date against the entrenched Republican in our district, Leonard Lance. So what we did is we went out and did the work. We got intrinsically motivated people from around the country, over 1,500 people across 14 states got involved in our campaign. And what really drove it was the issues. And that's the reason why I think that is more sustainable as a model than collecting as much money as possible and trying to run campaigns. People are excited about these issues. That's what we need to be going about throughout our nation, throughout our districts, and talking about Medicare for all, living wage, 100% renewable energy, and making investments by creating good-paying jobs.
But Peter, the conventional wisdom is that in a district that is held by a Republican representative now and has for a while, that the way to go is to be a more moderate Democrat to appeal to the Republicans in the district. And I interviewed a more moderate Democrat in this particular race as well. So what do you think is wrong with that argument, if anything?
The tides have turned. Let me show you one example right here. This is what our opponents sent out. As you can see, Bernie Sanders, liberal, fiscal conservative, few days before election. And that went out to tons of people throughout our district. And yet we ended up getting the percentage we got. We did better than GCCC supported candidates in the past. People are responding to this message. I met those Trump voters, Tea Party supporters, and Democrats who consider themselves centrists. Guess what? They like Medicare. They don't like the fact that Paul Ryan wants to privatize Social Security, Medicare. They know they're paying taxes into a system that is rigged against them. They know that money has corrupted politics. And they're tired of the fact that there is nobody to represent them and bring back investment right here at home. We are the 8th wealthiest district. We are home to big pharma. We are home to big telecom. We have some of the leading solar panel integrators in the state of New Jersey and in the entire country, in fact. But yet we have a congressman who has not tapped into the intellectual as well as financial capital to ensure that young folks who are coming back home have opportunities, to ensure that the next generation is better off than he was.
Yep. So I now know why you did so well in the last election. They accidentally sent out ads for you by calling you a Bernie Sanders liberal. So let's hope they make that mistake again this time. So speaking of this time, one more question about the Democrats. Given how close you came last time and how you proved to be a viable candidate, are they fully supporting you this time around?
This time, once more, we do not have support from the Democratic Party establishment. They have supported a banker, the county chairs in New Jersey. You cannot understate the importance of the county parties. And in the largest county, the chair already went forward and supported this banker. They promised us a open convention and to remain neutral, yet they went forward. I get a call a few weeks back and they say they already decided. That's not democracy. So we don't anticipate support from the Democratic Party establishment. What we do anticipate and what we do have, having run already once and having this base of supporters and having the name recognition, is that everyday people who are fed up with politics as usual are engaged in our campaign to flip this district. So it's the people that we go to who are seeing life every single day, trying to put food on the table and still not making ends meet, trying to pay for their kids' college, watching grandma cut her pills in half because she can't afford her medications. Those are the people who want to see this district flipped. And those are the people who are supporting our campaign.
So I want to put up links to help Peter. You've got small dollar donations you got to make up for the corporate. He's a just Democrat, so he's not taking any corporate PAC money. In order to beat those giant corporations, you got to help out. And if you're anywhere near that district, obviously volunteer, and the website's there as well. The links are all in the description box, so you could easily click on them if you're watching on YouTube after the show airs, and then on Facebook, it'll be in the comment section. So, Peter, it is amazing. Progressives will run. They'll do well. This happens all across the country. Another Just Democrat, Colonel Applegate, is one example, but there's dozens of examples. They'll do really well, and then Democrats will come in and go, okay, great, you've proven that this race is winnable and that you're a viable candidate. So now step aside and let a rich person run. Okay. And the reason they do that, because their metric is not actually being able to win. It's the money. And it's not even money as a decider or predictor of who can win. It's money to spend money, because a lot of these decisions are being made by Democratic consultants, and the money goes to consultants. So, Peter, what you said earlier, you said in a note of pride that you had spent the money the most efficiently of almost anyone in the country. But the Democratic Party looks at that and goes, what a shame. Because what they want to see is you raise a lot of money, give it to their consultant friends. In fact, we know Young Turks uncovered a memo that showed that you are directed to spend 75% of your money on pre-selected consultants that the Democratic Party has selected for you. And if you're not wasting your money on them, they're not going to help you.
Absolutely. It's what I like to call the campaign industrial complex. And we've seen it in election cycle after election cycle, and guess what? We keep losing because of it. They say that they're going to back you, all the establishment folks. They want that DCCC money or whatever progressive group to come in. Then these folks who know nothing about the district, who many of them, some of them do care, but many of them don't. For them, it's just another game. They come in, they cash out, and then they move on to the next race. The difference with our campaign is, again, like last year, we had a fisherman from Massachusetts who worked down the Bernie campaign. We had another guy who was our data guy who worked on the Bernie campaign. These were intrinsically motivated people. We built the Democratic Party, engaging people and bringing them into the fold by just doing something simple, telling the truth, and being bold and brave with the issues that mattered most. That's a more sustainable approach. If we want to win, we have to talk about the issues that would lead us to that victory. And there is a fundamental reason why Bernie Sanders is the most popular politician in this country. It's not because being a 70-some-year-old, bald, glasses-wearing Jewish guy is a sexy thing. No, he is popular because he is honest. The Democratic Party has an issue with trust, and we need to regain the trust of the people by saying no corporate PAC money in our campaigns, that we want healthcare as a human right by a Medicare for all single-payer system. We are going to create good paying jobs, not just jobs. Politicians always come by. Look, I'm a social worker. I've seen a ton of them come to my social service agencies and say, you want a job? I'm going to get you a job. You know what my clients say? Guess what? I got 3 of them. Great. We need good paying jobs in this country. We need to restore the vision of Franklin and Roosevelt and MLK and A. Philip Randolph. we need to invest in the people of our communities, not just give out handouts to the ultra wealthy corporations that have bought out every single politician in our country for the most part.
All right, Peter Jacob, everybody, in New Jersey's 7th District. And look, we ran out of time talking about Leonard Lance, the Republican incumbent there. Let me just tell the audience, he pretends to be a moderate. He voted with Trump 96% of the time. And he's against net neutrality. He's flipped from being pro-choice to being anti-choice. There's no reason why. And there shouldn't be a single Republican congressman from the state of New Jersey. That is a black mark on the blue state of New Jersey. So luckily, Peter Jacobs is going to help fix that. Thank you for joining us at Rebel Headquarters.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Okay, we got to take a quick break here. When we come back, the story of a young man who went into the Democratic Party, saw the corruption, and came out a rabbi. We'll explain. So, Michael, I'm going to start with you because you have what I consider to be an awesome story. So, you go to help the Democrats as an intern. Where did you go specifically, and then what happened next?
They sent me into the finance department, which is a code word for fundraising. And my job in that department was essentially to facilitate relationships between large donors and the Democratic Party. And this was the summer of 2009 when Democrats had the House, the Senate, the White House, and I'd grown up thinking, when this moment arrives, we will all be sitting around the campfire singing Kumbaya. But that is not what happened. And that summer in the DNC, that was when the Affordable Care Act was being written. And I saw very close relationships between when money would show up from Blue Cross Blue Shield and all the health insurance companies and how the public option would just vanish overnight. And just down the line, issue after issue, just being affected by money in politics and blatant corruption.
So, at that point, did you decide to change careers? And what did you choose instead?
Yeah, so I decided at that point, this is not the life I want to live. These people seem depressed. They do not seem to be enjoying their lives. They do not seem happy. And so I went to where the happy people were in my life, and they were the rabbis that I knew, the clergy that I knew growing up. And I thought, this seems like the perfect career. You get to ask questions of deep meaning and the ultimate questions of existence. And so I ended up in rabbinical school starting in 2012.
And so
graduated in June.
Yeah, so you're now Rabbi Michael Pollack.
I call him my rabbi.
Yeah. When you, in that case, it might be both figurative and literal. And Michael, your story is like it's almost like out of a joke. A guy walks into the DNC and walks out a rabbi. Anyway, so Adam, we just talked to you about the book you wrote about different progressive campaigns throughout the country. What brings you to March on Harrisburg and working with Rabbi Pollack?
Right. So my book with Francis Moore LePay, Daring Democracy. I mean, the whole point was to write about the emerging democracy movement. And look no further, but as soon as we handed in the manuscript for Daring Democracy, March on Harrisburg emerged. And so I hopped on a plane down to Philly, and I joined him. I had met Michael in Democracy Spring in 2016. We talked once, and we hit it off immediately. And when he told me that he was going to kind of form an offshoot group in Pennsylvania, I said, I'll come down and support. And, I haven't been disappointed. They are the embodiment of everything we write about Daring Democracy. I believe in them so much that I agreed to go on a month-long tour with them to speak in 20 different cities across the state to try and spread the message of what we need to do to take back our democracy.
Rabbi Pollack, I want to ask you about March on Harrisburg in a second. But did you get arrested with Me Too? Were you there on the first day of Democracy Spring or later?
Oh yeah, we talked that day. We were together on the Capitol steps, and I believe I was the last group to be arrested, and I think you were the second to last. Is that right?
No, I was. Wait, we were in the last group then together. Wow. I remember now. You're the rabbi I was talking to. Of course, that's so funny. But look, that's why I love Democracy Spring, and I love all the actions that you guys are taking, because you never know what blooms out of that. And now Michael's been arrested many times since. So I'm going to read before we get to March on Harrisburg. This is one of my favorite descriptions of a person ever. Michael's hobbies include convincing politicians to not be corrupt, long marches through the Pennsylvania countryside, and sitting down in inconvenient places in the state capitol. That's just phenomenal.
Summarized him well. I'm a good friend of his. I can say that's an accurate description.
Okay. All right. So, just for the people who don't know, what is the March on Harrisburg, Mike?
So March on Harrisburg, our long-term goal is to get Pennsylvania from the 45th most corrupt state in the Union into the top 10 within a decade. And to do that, we made a list of about 20 to 25 bills that we need to pass. There's a lot wrong with Pennsylvania democracy. And to pass these bills, we do three main things. We lobby, we march, and we do nonviolent civil disobedience. We've run two campaigns since January 2017. We have lobbied 240 of our 253 legislators. We've marched a combined 141 miles, and we have done 42 acts of nonviolent civil disobedience. 8 acts of nonviolent civil disobedience, resulting in 42 arrests.
So, and I see the different campaigns you did. May 2017, you marched from Philly to Harrisburg. 28 people were arrested. November 2017, Lancaster to Harrisburg, more arrests, etc. And this is all following the Martin Luther King model, obviously, of nonviolent civil disobedience to get attention. And this is a civil right that affects all of us because they've basically taken our democracy away from us. So what's the next march, if there is one?
We're actually not marching anytime soon, but I do want to say that we're not trying to get attention through our nonviolent actions. We're trying to get a human response. We believe very strongly in our nonviolence being really right in the face of power, not outside on the steps, but as close as we possibly can, so that we can get that face-to-face encounter and hopefully get a human response from it. The natural human response to seeing a human face is to respond with service and empathy and compassion. And so we really try to force that encounter.
And that's what we're doing across the state right now when we're barnstorming. We're right now, as we speak, we're in Erie, Pennsylvania, in a UU church, and there's currently an event going on right here. We just spoke at it. We're going to go right back and speak at it after we're done talking to you right now. And the whole point is to bring together those who want to fix our democracy in the physical space, not the cyberspace, and really work to try and create democracy hubs across the entire state to then bring together to the Capitol building to show that we have real force for democracy reform.
Yeah. And guys, in the state of Pennsylvania where you're working on this, in your case, what are some of the top issues you'd love to fix?
So our first bill is the gift ban. Right now in Pennsylvania, you can legally gift anything to a state legislator. Brand new cars, cash is legal,
Super Bowl tickets,
Beyonce tickets, everything, endless whining and dining. So we're trying to pass House Bill 39 and Senate Bill 132, which would make that illegal. It's a gift ban. The second bill we're pushing is to end gerrymandering. Depending on who you ask, we are the 46th, 47th, 48th, or 49th most gerrymandered state in the Union. The party that wins fewer votes statewide in congressional races wins the congressional seats 13-5.
Right.
And so we're trying to outlaw gerrymandering by creating an independent, nonpartisan citizens commission. Next up on the list is automatic voter registration, and then we're going to move into private campaign finance reform, publicly funded elections, and just down the line through all of the democracy issues.
Yeah, and I want the audience to understand something that's really important. When Rabbi Pollack and Adam talk about ending gerrymandering, we're not in the camp that says that means we should do gerrymandering to help Democrats.
Exactly.
No.
I want to jump in with just a short anecdote here. You know, it's such a bipartisan problem in Harrisburg, and the Democratic map maker, the guy who literally gerrymanders for the Democrats, said to me in a meeting a few months ago, he said, you know, when people ask me what I do for a living, I tell them that my job is to destroy democracy. And I don't feel good about it, but that's what I do. And I do it because I look across the aisle and I see crazy people. And when I get a chance in 2021, I'm going to draw as many of them out as I possibly can because they are insane. And that's where it sits in Harrisburg. It's a bipartisan problem. It's a power spectrum that just swings back and forth. And we, the people, are the ones who lose every time.
And the only way to fix it is to just take that power right out of the hands of the legislature and put it into the hands of an independent commission, like in California, for example.
Yeah, it's not right when Republicans gerrymander in Pennsylvania or Michigan. It's also not right when the Democrats do it in Maryland. We should have representative democracy. And the same goes for automatic voter registration. It is not to register only Democrats. It does not exclude Republicans. It is to register everyone in the state. And if the Republicans believe that they have the better ideas and can convince voters, they should be thrilled about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The most participation as possible.
Yep.
Here in Pennsylvania, the efforts to restrict our vote are pretty transparent. Our now Speaker, Mike Turzai, back in 2012, he pushed through a voter ID law that the courts later struck down. And he said on camera after that happened, before they struck it down, he said, voter ID to help Governor Romney win the state of Pennsylvania, done.
Yeah, so they're pretty blatant about it. But whether it's a constitutional amendment to get money out of politics or voter registration or gerrymandering, all we want, it's not a hard ask, is we want our democracy back. We're not looking to tilt the playing field in any direction. We just want democracy and let the chips fall where they may. And so I want to give the links here to be able to help Rabbi Pollock and Adam Eichen here get this done. Marchonharrisburg.org. If you're watching live, that's easy. Marchonharrisburg.org. And then you have the donation link and the volunteer link, because, of course, if this is not people-powered, it won't work. And, of course, if you're not watching live, the description box on YouTube has the links you can just click on, and on Facebook, it's in the comment section. And so the last civil rights movement was led by a reverend, so why not a rabbi this time?
You're way too kind.
All right, guys. Michael Pollock, Adam.